Let's say, for example, the company you're interviewing for, they say, hey, we're budgeting 120,000, and they ask you that famous question of what are your salary expectations, and people just say, pay me whatever you feel comfortable, and they say, oh, okay, well, will you take 100? And they say, yes, absolutely. Now, what if you stay at the company for 5 years? You just lost $100,000, right? And so the impact of that is very, very big. So I want to spend a little bit of time now and talk about salaries. Talk to me a little bit about that process. What are the common mistakes? And people think maybe it's taboo to ask that. So hopefully we can shed some light as to no, this isn't, and you should talk about it. So give us a little bit of light on that topic.
Don't be afraid to get in the conversation of salary.
Absolutely.
Salary is a big thing for everybody, right? When do I ask? How much do I ask for? Is it appropriate to ask even? What if it's too high, or what if it's too low? There's a lot of things going on with that nebulous salary question. So have it out with the recruiter who's casual, who's just talking to you, saying, hey, is this the right fit or not? A lot of times recruiters, they will get paid based off of how much you get paid. So you get a high salary, they're getting a high commission, whatever it may be. Unless they're, a captive agent with a company, then they don't care how much you make. They're going to help you get as much as you can because they're not getting commission at all, and they're just going to make it happen. Ask the question of the recruiter, or the recruiter may ask you and say, hey, based off of this conversation that we've had, what are you looking to make in your next job? And that question is pretty frequent. From what I've seen, and it's okay to answer it. And if you don't have an answer, delay it. It's okay to delay it, but you want to get back to the recruiter and let them know your answer eventually. And always provide a range, right? Always provide basically anywhere between your current salary and probably 40% above that. Or if you want to shoot for the moon and say, hey, I want to make $1 million, you'll both laugh about it. But nothing gets done there. You're going to see job postings with the salary range on there. And typically what they're going to do is they're going to say, okay, we're going to hire between, maybe a regular employee and a senior level employee. We want to put it out there for anybody with those types of experiences, and we'll bring the best on. So they're going to post the salary range of a regular employee, bottom, all the way to the top end of the senior employer. Does that make sense? So rather than the regular employee being a salary range of 90 to 100, they're putting 90 to 160, because 160 is that senior employer or employee. They hit all the marks. So that's the range that you're going to see on job descriptions in general. If you see that, of course, you got to understand that they're not always going to max out, and they're not always going to try to put you right at the bottom. They're looking for right in the middle, somewhere around that 50% mark, if you hit all the qualifications. So if you're going through the job description, you're saying, hey, I hit everything on here that they're asking for, be shooting for middle, upper. That's where you should be going. And when you're in your mindset of like, hey, what's the offer that I should be expecting? If you're not hitting qualifications, you can expect to see that salary go from middle, lower, right? So just kind of understand that that's the starting point. It's not where you're going to necessarily end up, but that's the starting point for the company and the compensation department who's looking at your experience and trying to figure it all out. So that helps. Having it out there is good. But you're going to have those conversations with recruiters where you haven't seen the job description yet or anything like that. So you're going to be able to have the opportunity to ask those questions of them and say, hey, where are we at in this? What are you guys looking for? And sometimes that first question can be, hey, are you looking for someone entry level? Are you looking for someone senior? You looking for someone super senior leadership? Where's that at? And the recruiter could tell you. And if they say, oh yeah, we're looking for someone mid-range experience, 3 to 5 years, that immediately can tell you, hey, their salary band is right in that middle, right? They're not looking to pay tons of money for someone with 10 years of experience. They're looking for someone ideally in that 3 to 7 range who are going to fit in their salary expectations a little bit. So that's your first cue. You haven't even talked salary yet. You're just asking questions of the recruiter, and he's giving you a little insight into what they're looking for. And that's when that question comes up, right? So after you ask that and say, awesome, I love it. I fit right in there. I think I'd be a great fit for your team. I love what the job sounds like so far. You can be the first one to bring it up, but whether or not you bring it up or the recruiter's going to bring it up, it's coming, right? The recruiter is kind of that scout for the hiring manager. Hey, is this someone that we can afford? Is this someone that, would fit both the qualification side and is going to match in with our budget? We got to thread that needle sometimes. And sometimes that they're not going to match up, and we're going to do our best to bring it to even playing field, but you got to work with them as a partner at that point. So you ask the recruiter, so, oh, great, you're looking for someone in 3 to 5 year range. What are you guys looking for in terms of salary at this point? Do you guys have a range in mind? And the recruiter is likely going to try to turn it back to you because they don't want to bring all their cards to the table without hearing what you've got, right? So, hey, yeah, we're looking for someone right in that 3 to 5 year range of experience. We're kind of looking at a salary range, but they may even just stop there and say, but what are you looking for? So they won't even answer the question necessarily because they want to, think about it. If you say, hey, what's the salary range? And in your mind, you're thinking, hey, I need to make 200K, just as an example. And the recruiter, comes back and says, oh, well, we're looking at a salary range of, 130 to 140. Immediately you're turned off to the job. You're not even listening to the rest of what the recruiter has to say. So the recruiter doesn't want to come out and say, hey, we're looking at this range without at least knowing kind of the ballpark that you're in. Be open to that conversation, be willing to bring it up, and be willing to give a range. It doesn't have to be a specific range. It can be a big range. It could be a small range. But you could also bring into factors of, hey, this is the PTO I'm getting. This is the type of benefits that I receive. Hey, I don't pay any co-pays at my company, for example. That could be a big selling point for the recruiter and say, hey, we actually do the same thing. So from that perspective, you don't worry about it. Or you could say, hey, I'm making this much salary, or I'm looking to make this much, but I'm paying really high deductibles on my co-pays. Do you guys do anything for that? And the recruiter can tell you some of those inside info, because it's not all about the number, in my opinion. It really is that total comp, right?
Yep.
So if you're asking the right kind of questions, get an understanding of what the company provides, you can kind of figure out some of those leverage points to say, hey, this is where maybe I can't change the salary itself, but I can change the PTO. I can ask for more benefits. I can ask for, whatever it may be. You can get a little bit more. Hey, do you guys pay for gym membership? I just heard about a tech company that's paying for his snowboarding hobby. They're like, hey, what's your favorite thing to do? He's like, I love to snowboard. They're like, great, we just paid for your pass for the entire season. Go to any mountain you want in the Northwest region. He's like, sweet, I love it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's things that may not even be on the radar for anybody, but if you don't have the conversation and take it to that next step, you won't know. But typically it will rely around the number, right? So give them that range. Like I said earlier, ideally from where you're at now to potentially 40% more in general. If you're like, hey, I'm at that point in my career where I'm getting ready to go from regular to senior, bump. You got to be realistic about where your experience and what you provide is in the market. So know if your skill set is in demand, you could probably ask for a lot more. If your skill set is dying, probably going to get a lot less, right? If you're a COBOL developer, it's likely that they're going to say, hey, we need you, but we're only paying $80,000 a year for it. It's not as much as somebody who's maybe doing a Java or, any number of technical languages that are just in the now. They need someone, they're going to pay $200,000 for it, that kind of thing. So understand where your skill set lies in the market. Understand what sector you're looking at. That helps as well. If you're looking at a tech company, they probably got a lot of flexibility. Maybe that's a low salary, but a lot of stock options or a lot of PTO or unlimited PTO, right?
I like that. Sometimes people, and you mentioned it very well, where they'll focus on the base salary and don't realize that the equity is more valuable than the base salary. Yeah. So you could be getting stock options from a company that could potentially, depending on how well the company's doing, and obviously I tell people to research that and make the best decision, but it could be in a couple of years that that translates into a lot more money than you could have ever gotten paid from a base salary. So I think it's very cool that you brought that up.
Exactly. So understanding the dynamics of who you're speaking with. So it's always good to have some of that background information. If you're on a call with a recruiter, you're probably at your laptop or you got your phone, start Googling, where are they at? What are they doing? Who am I having a conversation with, right? It's still that introductory conversation, but you want to get this out there ahead of time. So that way, if the recruiter says, hey man, I love this candidate, I've got stamp of approval, it's nice and shiny, I'm ready for this guy to move forward, but his salary is way beyond what we were prepared to pay. It gives them that time to work with the hiring manager, work with the comp team, work with all involved to say, hey, is this someone that if we want to move forward with, this is what he's expecting. And we can't get to the offer stage and say, oh yeah, we can't meet your expectation by a factor of 3 or whatever it is. Like, you got to be close. Even if it's not right on, you got to be close and at least show some effort.
Hmm.
But if I don't know your salary expectations ahead of time, I can't help with that. Right. So if I just go to the hiring manager and said, hey, we had a great conversation, I like this guy a lot, we should move him to an interview, months go by, right? Interview process takes a little while and we get there. We're finally at the offer stage and the hiring manager goes to you and says, hey, I've got an offer for you, but it's 30 grand, 40 grand less than what you normally would make. Or,
Hmm.
if we're talking hourly position, you're making 40 and then all of a sudden they offer 25 an hour. You're going, wait a minute. No. I'm already making 40 an hour and you're offering me $25 an hour. No way. I don't accept, I'm moving on to the next guy.
Hmm.
Well, not only does that piss you off, right? Pisses off the hiring manager who put in all that work to get you to that point, and now they can't do anything about it because it's already gone through comp. They're kind of blindsided. It's already over anyway. You're already fed up with the company and you've moved on. You've already accepted another offer.
Yeah.
Now they want to start that whole process over again. So that hurts them as much as it hurts your ego. So having that conversation ahead of time with someone who's outside the hiring system, if you will, but related to it, that recruiter, right? Somebody that you're working with, that you can go to them and say, hey, look, man, I really like your opportunity, but I'm really looking to make $40 to $45 an hour. What can we do there? Or 45 to 50. Like, I'm looking to make that next jump in pay. I've got things going on in my family. This is what's going on. I'm looking to make some moves. We're looking at buying a new house for all the kids, whatever it may be. Like,
Yep.
be willing to have that conversation. And the recruiter will say, hey, you know what? That's great. Thank you for letting me know about that. At this point, from what I've seen in the past and the budget that we've got laid out, I'll be straight with you, man. We can only do $30 to $40 an hour. They may come out and say that, and you could say, you know what, great, let's move forward. But I really am looking to bump it up a little bit. What can you do to help me out? Or, hey, this is a good conversation with you. It's been good, but call me on the next opportunity. You can do
Yeah.
that. And it immediately saves months of time for both you and the company that you're talking with. And if you can do just a little bit of that legwork with the recruiter ahead of time, you're going to save a lot of time, a lot of frustration.
One of the biggest issues that I see a lot is folks are afraid of asking.
Yeah.
And the biggest takeaway from me that I've gotten from the story on salary is it's just ask
Yeah.
and work with the recruiter, because the recruiter will tell you whether or not they can meet it or not, or whether your skill sets fall in line with what you're asking for. And all that can be done just by asking. So that is really, really awesome.